morning. Good morning, everyone on the call. It's great to be back after a time when I've had to be away. And I thank Jessie for continually inviting me to this forum. Let me just share my screen properly. Okay, so the last time that we were here, we were going through habit 4, but today we are going through habit 5. And we are engaging the 7 habits of highly effective people. Again, I'll remind us that this is not my own presentation. It is a presentation that I've got from the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Steve Covey. And the themes of that book, just to remind us, are paradigms and principles, private victory, public victory, and renewal. If you remember, we began with habit 1, which was being proactive, which means you take control of your life and the situations around you. Habit 2 was to begin with the end in mind, that whatever you do, whatever you plan, you have a goal, you know where you want to go, you have a purpose, you know why you've been created, and therefore, whatever you do is about making sure that you move towards that which you feel you have been created to do, or what you have planned to do in your business, or in your life, in your relationships. That is beginning with the end in mind. Habit 3 was about prioritizing our lives, about scheduling our priorities, but not prioritizing our schedules. Putting first things first was about looking at the time that we have. How much time do you have and how are you using it? Looking to areas where you could be able to choose which quadrant in the quadrant matrix that is given to us by the late Steve Covey, and choose to be in quadrant 2 at any single time of your life. And then we looked at habit 4, which was think win-win, where you say my way and your way may not be the best ways. Can we look for the alternative way? Can we look for areas where we can be able to work together, even if we have differences in opinion? And now habit 5, which falls in the public victory theme, because we always keep referring back to that quote by Steve Covey that says, public victory is always preceded by private victory. So habit 5 falls in the public victory theme. And habit 5 is to seek first to understand, then be understood. That is habit 5. Seek first to understand, then be understood. And that's what we're going to go through in the next few minutes. Now, habit 5 goes against the common paradigm. And I would say maybe not that the paradigm is not in this sphere that we are in right now, not on this Zoom call. It's out there, I believe. But this common paradigm says, I need to make sure that people understand my point of view. In other words, when you're an ineffective leader, if you're an ineffective manager, an ineffective business person, you're always looking to make sure that people understand your point of view. If I am in a space where I'm leading, I constantly want to make sure that other people understand my point of view. This is not the paradigm. This is not the paradigm that the habit 5 seeks to promote. And the common practices under this paradigm that is ineffective, the paradigm that says people need to understand my point of view, the common practices there are confront. Anytime I get into a space, I'm confrontational. I'm looking to see how I can make sure that my way is my way, and therefore I'm always in a space of confronting and seeing how I can be able to get on the other side of what everybody is saying. I always seem to have another point of view, and that point of view must go through. Another practice is to take offense and offend. I don't know if you've been in a space with people where anything you say makes their temperatures just keep rising up. I have a friend who we commonly say in our space that her temperature is at 120. 120. Every time we say something, it's as if she feels we are always attacking her, always taking offense. And unfortunately, for people who tend to take offense, they usually offend. They're the kind of people you see coming and your heart just falls down into your stomach. This is a common practice of those who are ineffective in applying habit 5. And the last one is on the opposite side of the spectrum. These are the people who choose not to speak at all. They feel they don't want to get involved in a conversation because they feel that their way is superior to any other person's way. Again, I don't know if you've been in spaces where you're carrying on a conversation and all these, opinions have been going back and forth for about 30 or 45 minutes. And then when you keep quiet, this person speaks as though what you've said has not held any weight whatsoever. And it's as though what you've all been speaking about has been a waste of time. This is the kind of practice that people who are ineffective in using habit 5 tend to have. And like I said, I believe it is not in this space. But the highly effective paradigm says, I have greater influence with others when I understand them first. Remember, as leaders in Neo-Life, we are seeking to influence others to have a better lifestyle. We want to influence others so that they can learn to eat well. They can learn to live healthy. They can begin to have those habits that will help them to have a longer span of life here on earth. So influencing them is not about forcing them to take your way. It's trying to understand where they're coming from. Why is it that this particular customer or this particular client no longer wants to buy a product from you? Why is it that this particular customer is finding it difficult to continue the purchases that you have been handing over to them? Or even within your team, why is it that that particular downline doesn't seem to be moving in the direction that the whole team is moving? Why is it that at the end of the day, when you're finished with everything at the end of the month, that there are certain people who get left behind? Habit 5 says, I have greater influence with those in my team when I seek to understand them first. The 5 principles of effectiveness that go along with habit 5 are respect and empathy. And we're going to look at each one of these one by one. I've just taken out these 2 because I think they really resonate with the kind of work and the kind of business we are in Neo-Life. Respect. What is respect? And I'm sure this is something that you've come across, but maybe you really haven't got a definition for it. If somebody asked you what is respect, it would have all kinds of definition. But I chose this one, that respect is admiration for someone due to their abilities, qualities, or achievements. Now, often in Neo-Life, as we do our business, they can tend to be a slight tilt towards competitiveness and a slight tilt to wanting to do much better than somebody else. But respect under the habit 5 in our business would be that even when that person seems to do better than yourself, is selling more than you do, has a greater downline space than you do, you're able to admire them and ask yourself, what is it that I can learn from them? You're able to go up to them and say, well done. You're able to look for those qualities in that person and say, I like that. How can I be like that person? That is respect for the person. I'll never forget, my mother always told me that you're not allowed to demean, devalue, or degrade anybody that you come across, because you never know when it is that you find yourself in a space when you need that person. Are we able to respect all those with whom we do business or with whom we interact? The other one is regard for other people's feelings, wishes, or rights. And again, this goes down, I think, of our downline. Sometimes a downline might wish for something beyond what you're able to offer. Are you willing to go that extra mile, knowing that you respect them for who they are And because they are your client and they are the people that you are serving, respect looks at feelings, wishes, or rights. Are you able to understand why this person is feeling that way? Why they're feeling hurt? Again, in business, I think most of you know, we always, because it's an issue of relationships, conflict comes up. Conflict will definitely come up. And sometimes it's not about whether you're right or wrong, but being able to say, okay, I'm willing to step back because I have hurt you. You're not feeling good about what has gone on between us. You know, this reminded me of one of the values of in our business, Neolife, and I hope we know this value. I'm sure we can even say it in our sleep, where we say people are number one. And what does that mean for us in Neolife? We believe the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. This includes respect, individual dignity, kindness, and acknowledging that each person has a unique and important role. Even if we might be at that level of diamond, we realize that that senior manager brings something to this team. Without that person, my team would not be what it is. Therefore, I respect them for who they are and for what they are bringing in and bringing onto the table. The other one is empathy. What is empathy? Empathy is the ability to understand another person's thoughts and feelings in a situation from their point of view rather than your own. Very much like respect. But here is where you take time. You take time to really find out what is it that this person is thinking. Why are they feeling this like this? And not from my point of view, but from their point of view. In habit 5, to seek first things, to understand before we are understood, we try to completely understand the other person's point of view before presenting our own. Seeking first to understand involves empathetic listening. Empathetic listening is so fundamental, and I think especially for us who do business, because often we have to listen in between the lines. Listening to understand, but not to respond. Again, I'm sure you've been in spaces where after you've had a conversation with this person, that might just even be the two of you, when the person responds, they're clearly showing you they didn't actually hear what you were saying. A lot of us, you know, when we are in a conversation, especially when it is analytical, or it's talking about products, or about our experience, when somebody's speaking, we're just waiting to talk about what we have done, what our experience is. But empathetic listening is listening to understand what the other person is saying, to acknowledge other people's ideas and opinions. I like this because it puts it in a space where, as leaders in business, we understand we don't know it all. We may have been in the business for a long time. I'll give an example. When Neolife came to Uganda, and I say this with a lot of humility, we were one of the first people, my husband and I, together with Dr. Ngana, who first brought the business into the country. And we would be in this and had experiences, we had challenges in getting the business going. But today, a lot of times I meet distributors in Neolife, and I realize that there's a lot more that I can learn from them. There's a lot more that I can be able to glean from them to become a better distributor. And therefore, it's important that whatever level we are at in the business, that we acknowledge that somebody somewhere may have something that you do not know, may have an opinion about the way the business should be run that you don't know. This is what Habit 5 does for us. Let's talk about empathetic listening. And I'm just going to give a few points where I think empathetic listening will be a platform or will be evidenced if you do these things. When somebody is talking to you, look them in the eye. I know our African culture, for some of us who were told when you're growing up that don't look an adult in the eye when you're talking to them. But in business, if you want to empathetically listen, Look the person in the eye so that they know you actually have their attention. You know, one thing that really rattles me is when I'm talking to somebody and they're on their phone. The message that they're giving is, you're not as important to me as what is going on in my phone. Look the person in the eye. Respond appropriately. Now, in African culture, you know, we tend to give sounds as somebody's speaking. Really? And that kind of thing. It shows the person that you're actually in the conversation. I know other cultures have different ways of responding, but the key thing is respond appropriately when you're listening to somebody. And this is very important. I have found it's very important when I'm talking to a client who has a health problem and is really trying to explain what their problem is. I need to be able to let them know I'm hearing them. I understand where they're coming from. So when I do recommend a product, they know that I have been listening and it is in their best interest that I'm offering that particular product. Listen without judgment. And this can be difficult for some of us, especially when we feel we're at a particular level in society. You can look at somebody and that adage that says, don't judge the book by its cover, really comes in here. Listen to somebody without judging them because of the way they look, because of their accent, because of what they do. Listen without judgment is empathetic listening. Then sometimes you may need to repeat the phrases for understanding. Did you say that your problem was the left ear and not the right ear? That shows the person that you're actually listening. So you may need to repeat phrases for understanding. Then the other thing is, don't interrupt with your story. I don't know if you've been in a space where you're busy trying to explain to somebody, then somebody says, actually, I also went through that kind of problem. And then before you know it, they're talking about themselves rather than about what you have to bring to the table. So try not to interrupt, even if you feel you have the solution there and then. And this goes with the next one of hold your point of view and don't offer solutions. Oftentimes, especially as distributors, we feel we have the solutions to every single problem, every single ailment. We have a solution. Don't offer solutions until the person has finished. And then I'd like to come in here and just say, if you don't have a solution, don't offer it. If you don't have a solution, don't offer it, even if you would want to sell a particular product. And then be comfortable with silence. Oftentimes we want to keep going on and on and on, but there's a time just to be quiet and just to listen. And sometimes not even to give like I said before, don't even to give a solution. Just say, you know what, I've heard you. Let me go and think about it. The other one is to stay calm and control your emotions. And again, this usually happens in business when we are working together with our counterparts. You know, maybe it's the end of the month and there's something that you really want to get going and this person is talking to you and they may be doing something that you really feel is not right and it's going to affect your points at the end of the month. Stay calm and control your emotions. That helps you to hear what the other person is saying. Sometimes you might be hearing what they're actually not saying. So stay calm and control your emotions. The other thing is to take note of body language. It has been said that a lot of what we say, almost 70% of what we say is in our body language, not what comes out of our mouths. So be conscious of the expressions on the person's face, of the way they're expressing themselves. How are they using their hands? At Toastmasters, which I'm part of, we say body language adds so much to your speech. So take note of the body language when you're empathetically listening. And then the other thing, if you really want to listen empathetically, give it time. There may be those conversations where you may have to ask the person that maybe let's continue this conversation later, because you need to give it time to fully understand what this person is saying. I have a brother in the UK, and every time I see Nicholas is called my brother, I know I need to stop everything and spend the next 1 hour just listening to him. He's not the kind of person who you listen to for just 5 minutes. So there will be those people, even in your team, you realize with this particular person, if I'm to listen empathetically, I need to give them time. I need to give them time because the way they express themselves, you know, they're the kind of people who need to give you a bit of history, and then they need to put in the experience. If you're a true leader, a true business leader, there will be times, even with your class, that you need to give them your time. You need to give them your time. So let's move on. Let's move on. The other thing that is very important for us in business, especially when we really want to know what this particular client may need or a downline may need, is to ask open-ended questions. These are questions that cannot be answered with a simple yes or no, and instead require the respondent to elaborate on their points. There are questions like, what exactly happened? Okay, what exactly happened for you to find yourself in this situation? How can I help you? And this is a great one because it makes the person feel that you really are out there to serve them. And I use this quite a lot. How can I help you? Not what can I sell to you or what is your problem, but how can I help you? Why do you feel that way? Why do you feel that this product that I gave you isn't working for you? See, those are the kind of questions that then the person realizes that it's not so much about the product that you're looking into. It's for you, you're trying to find out why they feel that way and how you can help them. What would make you feel better? What would make you feel better? Would it be that I called you? I didn't call you as often? Would it be that I deliver the product to your door? Would it be that I just send a border with the product? Or when you're dealing with your downline, what would make you feel better? Would you feel better if I actually wrote down what you need to know? Would you feel better if I made a phone call rather than trying to send it on a WhatsApp? That's empathetic listening. And then how can we move forward? And this is usually used when we have conflict. We are in a conflict. At the end of the day, you're asking and saying, okay, this is where we are, but how can we move forward? It's a human need to be listened to with understanding. It's like giving someone psychological air, the freedom to breathe from the heart, not through the mouth and not through the mouth, but to breathe from my heart, to allow me to be me in the way I am feeling. That is seeking first to understand. And I just thought I'll throw this in here. I'm an ardent reader, but one of the books that I love to read is the Bible. And this scripture has been a guide for me for a long time about how I interact with people. And it says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather than in humility, value others above yourselves. Not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. And for me, the one that I always underline is rather in your humility, value others above yourself. I'm constantly asking myself when I meet people, how can I value this person? How can I help this person leave my space better than when they came into it? That is empathetic listening. That is seeking first to understand before you are understood. That is engaging habit 5. And so in habit 5, as we seek to understand before we are understood, we realize that we have greater influence with others when we choose to understand them first. And I put here this picture because I know a lot of times seeking first to understand before being understood is usually an age thing, where the older find it difficult to understand the younger and the younger the same way. But when we engage this habit, you'll find that these two generations are able to sit over a cup of coffee and have a great conversation. Thank you so much, and back to you, Jesse.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Harriet. Wow. Well delivered, highly impactful. We can't thank you enough. This has been so amazing. Thank you for breaking down this in a very relatable way, in a way that each of us here will go away and just apply it, especially in our relationships, the way we relate with other people, our clients, the way we connect with them. Thank you so much, Harriet. Recently, I just came across a card that someone gave us on our wedding. And sometimes you're so busy during that season that you don't see much, you don't read what is on those cards. But this time I was seated on my desk and I opened this card and I find that scripture, Philippians 2:3-4. And the part that just stood out was looking not to your own interests, but to the interests of each other. I said, wow, what a statement. And I just realized it's very easy to always look out for what is in it for us as opposed to what is in it for other people. Because like you have rightly said, the way to influence others is to understand them first. And that's what we are all about. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. But what is the key to influence? The key to influence is to understand people. And the only way to understand people is to first make them feel heard, to first listen to them appropriately. So thank you so much. There are quite a number of areas that you have touched on that certainly we as distributors can apply in our business. You've talked about the part of respect. Respect is key. In fact, as you talked about respect, I thought about quite a number of things. Even sometimes when you keep time, it even shows that you respect that person's time. So there is a lot about respect that you have highlighted that I think we need to go back and reflect about. And of course, you've talked about listening empathetically, listening not to reply, but listening to understand. And always just taking time to ask yourself, what is this person thinking? When someone says your products are expensive, what does that person, what are they feeling? Because we need to make them feel heard. So when I say something like, you don't understand, these products are not expensive. Now, that is not listening to that person. That is not listening to the person. I remember one of the books I read when I just joined the business was the book, The Magic of Thinking Big. And one statement that stood out was, winning an argument does not guarantee winning the sale. Winning an argument does not guarantee winning the sale. In other words, yes, you might win the argument, but you won't win the sale. And the sale is about saying, I now understand that you understand my need. Here is the money. Let me have the product. So we could go intellectually and argue with people, but it's not enough for us to influence them to buy the products. What is key is for us to understand them. When someone says the products are expensive, the first thing to say should be, I understand. I understand. You know, someone says, network marketing is not my thing. I understand. I understand. Because for them, that is what they are feeling. And so we need to understand their feelings so that we can quickly bring them to our point of view. And of course, putting other people's interests first as opposed to what is in it for us. And that is where we have to be honest and authentic. That sometimes we realize that what we want to give to people may not be the best thing for them. Recently, I overheard a conversation between my two daughters, and one of them said, no, don't give them what you want. Give them what they need. I said, that sounds like leadership wisdom. You know, not what you want, but what they need. So many times before you recommend something, ask yourself, is it because that is what you want or that is what they need? So, and sometimes what they need may not be really what you want, but for the sake of influence and for the sake of connection, for the sake of understanding, prioritize what they need over what you want. So thank you so much, Harriet. This has been key. I realize you've shared a file. I think you've shared a file. I saw something. You will share it with me, and I can also